Hello, today I'm going to be creating a mixed media canvas with a Jurassic Park theme. I was looking through my stash and I came across this piece of sea glass that was an amber colour, and it made me think of the piece of amber with the mosquito inside it that they found on the Jurassic Park film, and they used that to extract the DNA of the dinosaurs and recreate them. And I've got this fabulous set of stamps from All and Create. And although I've got no mosquito, I do have this stamp of a bee, which would fit quite nicely under there. And so I'm hoping that I can stamp that onto some paper, fix it behind this piece of sea glass and make it look as though the insect is trapped inside the amber. So obviously I need some other items to go with this. So again, I had a little look and to see what I could find. And I'd got this stencil, it's an Andy Skinner design for DecoArt of an ammonite fossil. And I thought that would be perfect for a good textured background to my piece, and then I can use that little piece of sea glass as a focal point and add some more interest with some words or something. We'll work that one out as we go along. So I've took my canvas board. I'm using a 5x7 canvas board. These are from The Works here in the UK, £2 for a pack of 6, absolute bargain. And I've used some Prima modelling paste with that stencil, and I've done this already so that it would dry. Basically I've decided where I wanted to place my stencil onto my canvas, held it down, used a palette knife to apply the modelling paste through, and then set it aside to dry. You can speed it up slightly with a heat tool, but if you get too close or if you overheat it, it can blister or bubble up, so it's best to try and let this dry naturally if you can. So I did this about an hour or so ago, and it seems to be dry now. I'm going to be adding some colour with the DecoArt Media Fluid Acrylics. I've got a selection of sort of colours here, browns and greys, natural tones. I'll list the colours below. I'm not have any particular plan as to how I'm going to do this. It's going to be a case of building up some washes until I get an effect I'm happy with. So we're just going to see how it goes and hope for the best. So I'm going to put some different colours into my palette. So we've got transparent yellow iron oxide. This is Titan Buff. This is a favourite of mine, and I think this is the one that I'm going to do a base coat with. I've got some burnt sienna. I have raw sienna. And I've got burnt umber, maybe a little bit dark, but might help bring out some of the texture. I've also got a titanium white, which I might go over the top and do a bit of dry brushing afterwards. We'll see. I'm not going to put any of that out yet, so I don't know if we need it. So I think to start with, I'm going to use this Titan Buff as a good base coat. It's a nice neutral tone. If you don't have these paints, I'm sure you can mix similar colours with any other brand of acrylics. I do like the quality of these though. They're very well pigmented, so if you do water them down to create washes, you still get a good concentration of colour in there. And as always, in between my layers, I'm just going to be using my heat tool to dry so that the colours don't all become a muddied mess. So now this base coat's dry, I'm going to create some colour washes with these other shades that we've got here, and I'm going to start with some of the lighter ones first. Just going to take some water, a little bit of the paint into the water, and then apply the wash over my canvas board. a little bit of the darker colour. Just going to give that a dry with the heat tool. So I'm going to go in with a slightly darker colour now. I think this was the burnt umber. And again, just watering the paint down a bit. You can always add a bit more. I'm going to add this darker colour, not all over the canvas, just around the edges there, I think. And then I might just try and blend that out a bit with some water. And once again, I'm going to go in with my heat tool and dry it off slightly. I'm going to go in with a little grey rather than brown next. I don't want this to look too much like a piece of wood. It wants to look like some stone. And this is a dark grey, value 3. So I'm hoping that this might just take away some of the brownness, but still keeping it fairly neutral. I think I'm going to take this colour over the whole canvas board. I really like the look that this grey is giving it. I'm going to go back in again with a bit more, just slowly building it up. You can always add more paint. Very difficult to remove any if you put too much on. And with this type of project, it's all about building it up slowly, layer by layer, until you're happy with it. There's no real right or wrong. Right, now that's completely dry, I'm really happy with the colours that I've got there. I think I've got the balance of the grey and the brown quite nice. I like the different shades, the darker tones at the top. And I'm going to go in and do a little bit of dry brushing with the white. So for this I'm using a slightly stiffer brush. This is a little bristle brush. And I'm going to put a bit of white paint in my palette. And I've got a scrap of paper to take away some of the excess, because you only need a very small amount of paint on this brush. I'm going to lightly flick the brush over the surface so that it picks out and highlights the texture of that paste that we stenciled on there. Adding a very small amount at a time, gradually building it up. And you can see straight away the difference that it's actually making, really emphasising that texture. You don't want to rush this, you don't want to try and put too much paint on your brush, because you'll spoil the effect. So I'm going to continue doing this over the entire stenciled area, and then I'll come back and see if we need to add any other colours afterwards. Right, I've gone over the whole design with the white, and I'm thinking I might go over it now with a little of the Titan Buff. The white's quite bright against the background, but it's done a good job of lifting that design. So I'm going to repeat the process with a little of this Titan Buff. Again, taking off the excess, just using a small amount of paint at a time, and hopefully this will just tone down that brightness a little. Right, I'm a lot happier with that now. That Titan buff has taken away some of the whiteness. I know it may be difficult to see on the video at the moment. I want to darken around the edges of my canvas, and I've got, this is one of the Marabou water-soluble wax crayons, very similar to a gelato or distress crayon, that type of thing. And I'm going to go around the edge with this and then just blend it in a little bit. And hopefully this will just frame my canvas and give it a more finished look around the edges. They're quite easy to smudge with your fingers. I like them. They're a good value option if you can't get hold of the gelatos. They are available in individual colours or in packs of 6, I think. This was a set that I picked up from Lidl here in the UK last year, and it was good value. I'm glad that I had it. I do use them quite a lot in with my other media that I've got, water-soluble media. Yeah, I'm much happier with that now. It feels like it's got a bit of a frame to it. And that will dry. It's a waxy finish, and that will set there on the canvas. So for now, this part's finished, and we're going to move on to creating the piece of amber with the insect in it. So I'm just going to move these out of the way, and then I'll be right back. So I'm going to stamp this bee onto a piece of tissue paper. I've tried to stamp this on normal paper, just printer paper, and because this glass isn't completely flat, it's very difficult to adhere it smoothly to the bottom. The tissue paper, I'm hoping when I put the decoupage medium on it, should be more pliable, and I should be able to adhere it to this uneven surface a lot better. If you were using something that was completely flat, or like a flat cabochon, you should be all right with any type of paper. But for this being so wavy underneath, I'm hoping that the tissue paper is going to give me a better finish. So I'm using my archival jet black ink. Now this bee has the word buzz after it, but that I'm going to be cutting off, so I don't mind stamping it. I could have masked the stamp off. So I'm just going to trim where the words are away, because I know I don't need those, and decide how I'm going to position my piece of glass. And I think it's going to go like that. So just making sure that my ink is dry, doesn't take very long at all. And this is just a matte decoupage medium. You could use Mod Podge, matte medium, gel medium. I'm just going to add this to the glass rather than to the paper, simply because the tissue paper is quite thin. And I want to make sure that I've got this in all those little nooks and crannies of that texture. And then placing that down on my piece of tissue paper where I want it. I can then just flip it over and smooth any little air bubbles out, making sure we've got nice, good contact there. This will dry completely clear. So any haziness that you can see now, that will disappear once the medium's dry. And already I think you can see it's going to give us the effect that I'm looking for. So I'm just going to let that dry and then trim away the excess. So now that that was dry, I've trimmed around the edge with my knife, just got rid of that excess paper, and I'm just going to give another coat of the decoupage medium just to make sure any little edges are stuck down completely. And while that's drying, I'm going to get on with the sentiment that I've decided I'm going to put on this canvas. I decided to go with one of the quotes from the book and the film that I like, which was "Life will find a way." I think it was Jeff Goldblum's character that said it in the film. So I've taken, I've got a mini alphabet stamp here. So this is a little Dovecraft set, really good value from my local craft store. If you don't have an alphabet stamp, you can write this by hand. You could print it out on your computer. I've just stamped onto a scrap of white cardstock and cut the words out. I've stamped with archival ink because I want to just add some colour with the distress inks, and I know that the archival ink won't smudge once it's dry because it's waterproof. So I've got an antique linen, frayed burlap and black soot distress inks, and I'm just going to age this, get rid of some of the whiteness because we want it to fit with this sort of natural toned theme that we've got going on. I'm just using a foam applicator tool to apply the colour to the pieces of card. And I'm just going to add a little black edge which will help this stand out on the canvas and just define the pieces of cardstock. So now it's time to add the finishing touches and assemble this piece. I really like how that's turned out. To me it does look as though that insect is trapped in there. When I put it on my canvas, I feel it's a little flat, so I'm going to go around the edges with this metallic luster champagne ice colour. It's a really nice pale sort of silvery gold, and I'm hoping that this will just brighten the piece a little bit and almost give the effect of maybe like a soldered edge. I think that does do a good job at just framing that piece there. I'm also going to pick up just around the edge of the canvas with some of this as well. It just adds a touch of a highlight, a metallic highlight. So all that remains to be done now is to glue these pieces in place. And as the surface of my canvas and this piece of glass are both uneven, I'm just going to use a heavy gel medium to adhere it, and I'll use the same thing to stick the words down as well. Just going to put a fairly generous amount on the bottom of there. And just press it down. just decide where I want my words to be. And again, just apply some of the gel medium to the back and press in place. And here's the finished project. I hope you enjoyed watching me create it. I had a lot of fun making this today. I had no fixed plan when I started, but I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. I think that stamped image behind that piece of glass does look like something trapped in amber. I'm very happy with that. I like the effect I've created with the washes and the dry brushing technique on that stencil. I feel like we've got the right sort of effect there, and I'm going to display this in my craft room somehow. It's either going to go on an easel, or I might make a couple of holes in the top and hang it. If you did enjoy this video, then please, as always, leave me a thumbs up. Let me know that you enjoyed it, and let YouTube know that you enjoyed it. If you're not already subscribed, then please consider subscribing so that you can see more from me in the future. I've got plenty of ideas for new projects lined up, so hopefully you'll be seeing more from me on a very regular basis. Please feel free to leave me a comment below if there's something you'd like to say, and I'll do my best to get back to you and answer you. And so for now, that's all. Thank you very much. Bye.